I'm not sure who's going to use the microphone more. Susan talks a lot, and so does John. Here's John Leone with Susan Averett.
Thank you, Gary. Here with Susan Averett, professor of economics at Lafayette College, also the faculty member, also a friend to almost anybody who walks this campus. And today we're going to talk about, you know, Susan, we talk about Lafayette being a small school with big school resources. This little school really lays down a big footprint all over the world. Talk to us about Lime, what it is, and what it means to Lafayette.
Okay, sure. Lime is the Lafayette Initiative for Malagasy Education, and it's a mentoring program where Lafayette students travel to Madagascar for 3 weeks. We partner with a high school there, Lycée Andwalo, and we work with Malagasy students who are highly motivated and want to study in the U.S., and so they work year-round on the program, but we're in country for 3 weeks, and our students are mentoring them on the TOEFL test and the SAT.
Why Madagascar? I have a suspicion. I know it's one of the most impoverished countries in the world.
Yep.
How and why Madagascar?
So why Madagascar has a lot to do with my colleague David Stiefel in the economics department. Several years ago, the ambassador to Madagascar, who'd just been reassigned from Cameroon to Madagascar, noticed that very few Malagasy students went to college in the United States. So he actually wrote a letter to all college and university presidents in the U.S. and said, hey, can you help me out? These kids need a chance to get a good education and help their country develop. It landed on the desk of our former president, Dan Weiss, passed it on to my colleague, David Stiefel, who'd happened to live and work in Madagascar before coming to Lafayette. David formed the first group of Lafayette students who went over in 2010, and it was actually Lafayette students who designed what is the current program of Lime. We just celebrated our 5th anniversary when we were just over there in January.
So your 5th anniversary, that means the first students that you encountered over there were 11 years old.
Not necessarily. Okay. Some of them, so they're high school students typically. There are some younger and older. Most of the students that apply to Lafayette or other colleges are in line for 3 to 4 years before they're ready to apply, and then they apply. We actually have 3 students from Madagascar who are here at Lafayette currently.
That is an incredible story. When you talk about personalizing this whole thing, I happen to know one student. Her name is Stephanie, and you know, it's a situation where she was actually presenting her experience as a Lafayette student. So this is a kid, when our students started going over there, she was young and she grew up with our Lafayette kids. Talk about what it does for our kids.
Oh, I think for our kids, they would tell you to a T that they get as much or more out of it than they think the Malagasy kids do. They work really hard because although we go over there for 3 weeks, it's actually a 1.5 year commitment by the Lafayette kids. They prepare the curriculum, they hone their mentoring skills, they talk to the previous group, they go over there, they spend the time with the students. Now they're working with them remotely via Facebook and Google to work on their essays for their applications, keeping them motivated. But it's really amazing. When you meet these kids in Madagascar, you just can't be helped but fall in love with them and their enthusiasm for learning, and it's great.
I'd like to think that this is a program that is unique to Lafayette. Is it? Are there other schools doing this sort of thing?
I don't know of any other program that's like this, no. And as far as I know, we're the only program that's operating in Madagascar. And again, I should emphasize the structure of our current program is really from the first group of Lafayette students who went over there and tried to figure out how could we make this happen. So we have a partnership with a local high school that's been going on for 5 years with an English teacher who is phenomenal and students who are amazingly motivated.
You don't run programs like this for nothing. It takes support. Our alumni have been extremely generous. Where does the support come from, first of all, Susan? And if people do want to get involved, how do they go about it?
That's a great question. So we do require support. First of all, the Malagasy students have to apply to schools in the U.S. that are willing to provide a financial aid package for an international student. So it's a fairly limited number of schools that are willing to do that. And then beyond that, they've got to get here. And the cost alone of airfare is $2,400. And when you add up other costs of books and other things, we have to fundraise quite a bit of money to bring each student here, and so that's the other piece that the Lafayette students work on is the fundraising. And we do have a web page at Lafayette under Lime, and you can make donations through there that you can target to the Lime program. There will also be this spring, the students who just got back from Madagascar have several fundraisers planned.
Talk about changing the world. one person at a time. This is a great example of it, and it's also a great example of how our faculty, like you, Susan, do so much more than what is done in the classroom. Thanks for sharing it with us. Thanks for getting the word out, and thanks for everything you do on campus.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate having the opportunity to talk about Lyme. Thank you very much.
Gary, back to you.